The story begins with the announcement that our MCU Hansol, who is crazy in love with the gym, is trying to deadlift 10 tons, which would be the first in history. He performs the deadlift, and at the age of 17 he became the strongest living thing. But this is short-lived as he falls to the ground concerning the announcers. While blacked out, his body goes through changes granting him different abilities, but all he could think about is whether women really prefer muscular men, and getting his protein. Before waking up, giant chickens peck at him, but when he wakes up, the chickens who were pecking at him ran away, and because of the confusion his calm skill activates. Afterwards he takes a look at his surroundings. Surrounded by huge chickens, he concludes that he must have ended up in hell because of the chickens' resentment for eating too much chicken breast. The chickens start pecking him again, which annoys him, so he hits one of them, causing the others to back off. Another one of his skills Hawkeye activates, allowing him to see the protein content of the chickens. Seeing that the chickens are worth 68 kilograms of protein, he jumps at them, leaving nothing but the bones. After eating all that protein, he sits under a tree but gets concerned about his lack of size, so he makes his way to a lake, and he sees that the results of his hard work in his previous life has disappeared. After seeing his tiny body without muscles, where he was didn't matter, all that mattered to him was getting his size back. And in order to get his huge body back, he uproots a tree to perform leg squats, asking his efforts not to betray him. After 3 months of training, his efforts have been betrayed, but even though he didn't get as big as he wanted, he is happy that he has more than enough protein. And while getting ready to continue his training, a giant monster chicken called Cockatrice appears. Running away from the monster proved to be difficult because he couldn't take his eyes off the monster's chest muscles. The system activates, notifying him that his opponent has a great amount of protein, and if he is able to consume the monster, he will obtain the rare skill Amazing Muscle Recovery. Hearing this, he decides it's worth him risking his life for those rewards. While charging up his skill, the system warns him to deactivate it, but he continues, and he surpasses his muscles limit, granting him the unique skill-changing skeleton. Like something straight out of One Piece, his arms grew to the size of a giant's, and he uses one-armed dumbbell press, killing the chicken. Later that night while eating, the smell of the chicken cooking attracts the attention of some ghouls. They are curious as to what species was able to defeat Cockatrice. They also came to ask for his protection, since he is now the most powerful species in the territory. But as the ghouls were talking, the MC couldn't stop thinking about their skinny legs. This caused him to not hear them as they were asking for his favor. They give up after he asks for an explanation for the 10th time, and even though he is unable to help them because the gym rat is busy growing his muscles, he gives them a piece of the chicken breast. The ghouls thank him and approach the piece of chicken, getting ready to pick it up. Seeing this, he gets irritated and asks them if they want to destroy their backs, and if they even know what a deadlift is. From their confusion, he realizes that they have bad form because they don't lift weights. Recalling some wise words from his trainer in middle school, he decides to accompany the ghouls to their village in the morning. The next day he is welcomed to the village by the Ghoul Lord, and as they were talking, he couldn't stop himself from thinking about what poor physical shape the Ghoul Lord was in. The topic of skills came up, and not knowing what a skill was, he asked for an explanation, but he is looked down upon by the Ghoul Lord for not knowing what a skill is. The 3 that brought him into the village were brought to be punished. With his club and skill-heavy blunt, the Ghoul Lord hits them, but this is blocked by the MC with ease. Thinking it was a fluke, Ghoul Lord gets ready to attack again. The MC thought it was a shame to kill someone with such an amazing skill, but it couldn't be helped since he was an enemy. As he hits the protagonist, his weapon breaks, and in that instant the MC closes the distance. Using one arm front raise, he grabbed the Ghoul Lord at the neck, asking for his big 3. The Ghoul Lord doesn't understand what he meant by big 3, so he explains to him that the big 3 are 3 exercises: bench press, squat, and deadlift. This began a showdown of strength. If the Ghoul Lord was to win, the MC would become his subordinate, and if the MC wins, he will become the new Lord of the Ghouls. The first exercise is the deadlift, and they had a starting weight of 200 kilograms. The Ghoul Lord was first to attempt, and using his heavy blunt skill, he cuts the weight to about a quarter of the original weight, allowing him to easily lift it. Warming up, the MC asks the other ghouls to pay attention. As he is about to deadlift, Ghoul Lord used his skill, increasing the weight by 4 times. This didn't matter because the weight was sent into orbit. Seeing this, the ghouls need to their new lord. After obtaining the title of Ghoul Lord, the previous Ghoul Lord explained to him that he is in a new world different from his original world, but there are legends of people returning back to their worlds. He puts returning off until he obtain his size again, because if he was to return he would be made fun of. While making their way to the training grounds, he gave the Ghoul Lord the name Ghoulord. Arriving, he gets disappointed at the state of their training grounds. He orders the ghouls to get in rows of 5, telling them that if they don't want to be the weakest, they need to have a strong body, so he will train them for 3 months so they can become warriors. The ghouls get pumped because now they won't be at the bottom of the food chain, and after getting in rows of 5, he tells them to perform 100 push-ups. 3 hours later, the ghouls are struggling to continue, but the MC is having no troubles. Ghoulord informs him that the other ghouls can't go on anymore, to which he tells them to do 100 more than they can eat. The ghouls give up after this because it would be their 800th push-up. Hearing their complaining, he gets up and gives them one of Naruto's powerful speeches. Hearing the speech, the ghouls are motivated to continue. 3 months later, some Lizardmen have come to colonize the Ghoul village. Getting informed by Ghoulord, he orders the bench press group to open their chest, breathe in, clench their butt cheeks, and finally releasing on some rocks, hitting the Lizardmen. The leader of the Lizardmen notices that his men will soon get annihilated, so he calls for a one-on-one with the leader of the Ghoul Lord. After recalling how he dealt with his pet crocodile in his original world, he jumps at the lizard, pinning him to the ground, and using intimidation, he is able to make him surrender. In the city of Wordo Duchy, the feudal lord orders some of his men to investigate the disappearance of Cockatrice. After getting their mission, the 3 men leave, and the lord asks his general if those men will be able to accomplish their mission. The general confirms that there is nothing to worry about because those 2 of the 3 men are geniuses. Hearing this, the lord raises the question about why the 3rd man is on the mission, but all she told him was that the other 2 are fond of him. While making their way through the forest, they encounter a pack of goblins, which they dealt with to protect their friend Blog. After the fighting, they check up on their friend, and he tells them that he is fine. But in his head, he is envious of the fact that they are so much stronger than him, even though they started training at the same time. Back at the village, the Lizardmen have joined the ghouls in their training, and afterwards they say their goodbyes. The MC was surprised at the fact that the ghouls changed so much from one day of resting. As they were getting ready to prepare a meal, they asked him if they could go hunting on their own, so they could test out the new muscles they had gained. He allowed this so he could have some time to work out by himself. While thinking, Ghoulord has a thought that if all the Gouda builders team up, if they would be able to beat the MC, but he affirms his position, saying no one can beat him in a deadlift. In the end, he decided to join them on their hunt, and while hunting, he makes the ghouls do lunges to check their posture. But one of the ghouls gets injured. Later that night at the camp of the 3 warriors, Blog is doing secret training by himself, wishing he had strength. His friend Laper was watching without him knowing, and when he comes out of the shadows, he gives him feedback to help him improve. Hendard also moved away from the shadows, and the 2 start arguing about Blog's sleep schedule. As they were arguing, they noticed Lizardmen running towards them, but the Lizardmen were running away from chickens. The appearance of the MC has destroyed the entire ecosystem. Later, they watched the chickens train their chest, and after seeing the chickens work out, the ghouls attempted it but failed. Thanks to watching the chickens, the MC realizes that the ghouls have gotten used to his workout routine. He comes up with a solution and tells them to gather in rows of 5. After the ghouls gathered in rows of 5, he demonstrates the cable cross exercise, which targets the chest muscles. After their workout sessions, the chickens notice their chest muscles, which excites them, causing an evolution. After the chickens' evolution, the ghouls stood no chance against them. Back at the village, Ghoulord wakes up complaining about the taste of the food as he makes some fried chicken. And back at the hunting grounds, the ghouls are confused as to why they are still losing to the chickens, but the MC explains that it's because they haven't been working out as long as the chickens have. but they still have a path towards victory. Realizing what he means, the ghouls tried using their leg strength, but their legs was already tired from the lunges they did, making them easy work for the chickens. And after dealing with the ghouls, the chickens turned their attention towards the MC. He used one-arm dumbbell press, and in that moment the chicken's life flashed before its eyes. Later that night, the village enjoys chicken for dinner, and in the morning, while he works out, he tells the ghouls to go out hunting alone. While the ghouls were hunting, they realize that they have the strength to beat the chickens, but they don't know how to create the conditions of winning a battle. But since Hansel is letting his guard down, they can use this as an opportunity to beat him and chickens killed. They split up into 3 teams and dispersed. We then see as the 3 warriors observe the bones of cockatrice. Noticing that the head is missing, they conclude that it was a one-hit kill. Blog gets worried about there being something that's able to one-hit cockatrice, and as the other 2 were trying to comfort him, they hear sounds coming from the distance, so they take a battle stance. All the ruckus was being caused by the chickens running away from the ghouls. The ghouls stop after seeing the humans. Not wanting things to get complicated, they signal to teams 1 and 2 using their chest muscles. But seeing the jiggly pecks, the chickens get excited and evolved into cocas, who are said to be as strong as wyverns. The cocas charged at the ghouls, but the leaders of Team 1 and 2 arrived, and using accessory muscle bench press, a secret technique taught to them by the MC, they were able to defeat 2 of the cocas. But while they were distracted, a ghoul was about to be killed. Touched by their friendship, the 3 warriors protect the ghoul. The cocas were also touched, causing them to evolve once more. We then see that in the past, the first dragon was very greedy. Because of his greed, he distributed his power, and from that cockatrice was born. In the present, the warriors are trying to take down Kakari to hopefully gain recognition from their master. Back at the village, the MC is happy with his progress, but is surprised by the growth rate of the ghouls. And while recalling the harsh training the ghouls went through in the past 3 months, he is informed by one of the ghouls that the others are in danger. Hearing this, he asks to be pointed in their direction and takes a squat position. Using actual contractile muscles, he grew his leg muscles to a monstrous size, sending himself flying in the direction the ghoul pointed to. Back on the battlefield, the 2 warriors create an escape route for Blog, injuring Laper in the process. They try to run away but are chased by the Kakaris, and being backed into a corner, the Gouda builders used their last secret technique. But their technique couldn't stop the Kakaris. As they were about to be killed, Gillord arrives, saving them, and the MC landed in the wrong place. Gillord gets surrounded, but he remains calm, talking a big game about his plan. This big plan was to scream out for Hansel's help. Seeing this, the other ghouls were disappointed. We see that previously, after waking up, he realizes that they had run out of food and that the Gouda builders have yet to return, so he went looking for them. 5 minutes later, he hears the screams of the Gouda builders. Seeing the giant Kakaris, he picks up a rock. Thanks to his skills getting stronger by constantly being used as a weight multiplier, he was able to maintain his position, and he got stronger. He uses his skill tossing the rock and killing one of the Kakaris. In the present, the ghouls tell him that since he was able to kill one of the Kokas in one hit, he must be as strong as Hansel. Believing this, he puts his hands up in a fighting position. But like Team Rocket, he is sent blasting off again. Blog and the Gouda builders take their final stance and attack the Kakaris. Their only saving grace was that Gillord was kicked in the direction of the MC, landing in front of him, so he asks him to save them. Seeing this, he gets irritated and starts jiggling his pecs, attracting all the Kakaris to his location. Feeling the vibrations in their chest, the Gouda builders realize that it's Hansel, and while making their way to the location, Blog was curious as to what kind of man he was, but all the Gouda builders could tell him was that he is him. At the location, the MC used one-arm dumbbell press, sending one of the Kakari flying. Seeing this, the other 2 team up and performed a dive attack. Using military press, he lifted both of the Kokas and used BB push press on one and low flying lunge on the other. More Kakaris appear, which cause our MC to enter the forbidden mode CrossFit. In an instant, he kills one of the Kakari and moves on to the others. Using kettlebell swing, jumping squats, and cable tricep extensions, he dealt with most of the Kokas. The others arrive and Blog is terrified at the sight. Continuing with the solver, he realizes that he used too much of his legs' muscles to get here, and he doesn't know how much longer he could keep his from. Carrying the emotions of everyone, he decides to end it all in one move, the bench press. His upper body grew to a monstrous size, and with the power of friendship, he took out all the Kakaris. After the battle, they lay on the floor reminiscing about Gilord, thinking he died from the blast off, but it turned out he was just napping. Seeing that he is alright, the others jumped on him, giving him a big hug. Back at Werdo Castle, the two warriors report to the general and Lord of Duchy, and hearing the report, the Lord gets concerned. The general asks for Blog's location, and in a flashback we see that the MC took a liking to Blog. Even though the two tried to stop him, they couldn't, and he asked Blog to become his gym bro. They explained to their master that Blog had been taken, begging her to save him. The Lord feels bad, but he doesn't want to lose people in doing something reckless. Hearing this, the general gets emotional and orders her men to prepare for battle. Back at the village, the MC introduces the newcomer and the first workout of their session. This is the first time Blog is hearing of a squat, so the MC pulls him aside and demonstrates the squat. His first attempt is a failure, but he receives tips from the MC, and after making the changes, Blog was able to complete a perfect squat. The MC decides to add weight, which almost squashed him, but he held on and completed the squat. Seeing this, they realize that Blog is a natural powerlifter, so he tells him that even though he won't get stronger than his friends, he will have the power to protect them. This caused Blog to cry. The next morning, the MC was carrying baby chickens. This raised a lot of concern, but he explains that even though it's okay to hunt the Kokas, they might go extinct. The ghouls were still concerned about having someone to defeat the Kokas if Hansol isn't around, but he tells them not to underestimate themselves. Later, while the group is working out, Blog is being helped by Gilord and his heavy blunt skill, but in the middle of the set, the skill intrusion was used, interrupting their workout. We see that the person who interrupted the workout was the general, who asked Gilord if he was the one that kidnapped her student. Gilord explains that he isn't the leader of the ghouls anymore, but this wasn't the answer she was looking for. As she was about to strike him with her sword, the MC comes to the rescue, and after recognizing each other's strength, the general asked her subordinates if the MC was the person they were looking for. They answer saying that he is. Hearing this, she apologizes for interrupting their training, but she doesn't like the fact that her student was stolen from her. The MC hadn't realized that Blog already had a master, but he knows Blog enjoys exercising more than swordplay. Blog tells her that he is enjoying working out with the MC and apologizes for making her come all this way, but he doesn't plan on returning. Hearing this, she takes out her weapon and uses her sword skills, but the MC blocks it by flexing his muscles.